listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower on WRES 100.7 FM in Asheville. Listen up and get tapped into local important resources, information, and topics. Learn more about the topics of today's show at buncombecounty.org. Okay, it's time to get tapped in. Well, hello, and greetings to everyone that hears my voice. You know what that means. It is time to get tapped in, and I am one of your hosts, ZaKiya Rogers.
And I'm Leonard Jones.
And Leonard and I come to you from Communications and Public Engagement Department of Buncombe County, where the real heroes wear capes.
Joining us today are two guests from Buncombe County Justice Service Department, Director Tiffany Iheanacho and Justice Service Staff Member Brent Bailey. They are here to discuss programs and services provided by Buncombe County Justice Services. Welcome, Tiffany and Brent.
Thank you.
Good morning.
All right. Can you all tell us a little bit about yourself? Now, Tiffany, I'm going to let you go first because you're on my right.
Darn it, I already pointed to Brent.
I saw you.
You did see that? Let's say a little bit about myself. Yeah, as you guys introduced, I am the Justice Services Director for Buncombe County. I'm also a licensed clinician and addiction specialist, so I've worked in the field of mental health. Grew up, born and raised in New York, but I have so many deep roots here in Asheville, and I've called this my home for the past 11 years. Mm-hmm. And so that's a little bit about me.
All right. Brent.
So I'm Brent Bailey. I'm currently the coordinator of the Buncombe County Reentry Council, where we are, one thing we do is provide direct service delivery to those returning to Buncombe County from incarceration in prison. And I came to that position in 2015. I came from Project Reentry and Goodwill.
Okay.
That's how I kind of got to Asheville from Winston-Salem, where I was born and raised.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, we love that you're here now and the work that you're doing. So, can you all provide an overview of the diversion program available in our local area?
Sure, we have a spectrum of services that we provide, all the way from like your first time arrest to what Brent's going to talk about as well, prison reentry. And so we provide, like I said, a spectrum of services. Some of those services are when someone's initially arrested. They can have their case dismissed by the DA if they complete one of our programs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then we also provide mental health and substance abuse services and case managements for those that are in custody, those that are being released from custody. We can provide follow-up care. And then we also have a host of other services that help support people that are justice involved.
So what are some of the specific examples of diversion programs being implemented successfully in our community? And what impact does they have on reducing the recidivism rate?
Sure. So more specifically, I'll talk about two particular diversion programs we have. And then, Brent can talk about our reentry services. So when it comes to our diversion services, we work with those that have been charged with certain misdemeanors. That's the lower level cases like drunken disorderly maybe, or simple larceny. And those have been charged with substance use related charges, like your Schedule 1 and 2 felony drugs, which are usually the lower amounts, the user amounts of drugs. And so they complete a program, whether it's doing community service, whether it's taking some classes, a little combination of both. And then we let the district attorney's office know that they've completed the program, and those cases can be dismissed. And we also provide support with partnership with physical legal services, that if folks need the records expunged because they've been dismissed or they're eligible, we also can refer them to that program that we have on site.
That is nice. Brent, you have anything you want to add?
So when I'm working with individuals in reentry, typically they probably didn't qualify for those diversion programs. Maybe their charges were a little too serious in nature, so they ended up going to prison. And there have been instances where they were offered diversion, and maybe they just wasn't quite ready at the time. So they ended up maybe not being successful with diversion and ended up going to prison or whatnot. So I do prison reentry. There's a separate team in the Justice Services Department that handles jail reentry. So that's people leaving out the Buncombe County Detention Center. And basically what we're trying to do is get people plugged in to the support they need in four major areas: housing, employment, transportation, and then like their educational goals. Because the research pretty much says if you can assist people here and support them there, prop them up there when they're first released, then their chances of going back are reduced drastically. And so that's just what we looked at. Do we kind of view it as like those boosters on a rocket, right? The rocket takes off and the boosters go with them, and after so long the boosters fall off and they just keep going. So we just want to kind of be that initial support.
Yeah, and we understand that housing is so important, especially when you're recently released or newly released, because you really can't get a job if you don't have somewhere to live, and then you can't really maintain goals if you don't have a job but you don't have anywhere to live. And so those things are so important. And I think a lot of times people don't understand that we gotta house people so that they can be successful.
Yeah, and here we're connecting people to a lot of like recovery houses, transitional houses. But let's talk quickly like more permanent houses. So market dictates that, right? Wherever you are. And here in Asheville, there's a lot more people looking for housing than there's housing available, which allows the landlords, and I'm strictly talking about who's renting property, allows them to be much more specific about who they're going to choose. And so when you're looking at a way to filter someone out, one of the very first filters is going to be the criminal background. So there are some who will say, like if they see anything, for instance, you went through misdemeanor diversion, misdemeanor one, and it was dismissed, but it's still showing up on your record because it's yet to be expunged. They might see that and just deny you. So people are working, they're getting stable, they're even rebuilding their credit, whatever the case is, but then that's continuing to be a barrier to permanent housing. And so we're always working on that. And obviously, you know, the more units that's available, then the better options people have. And so just for us as a program, we just try to build relationships with private landlords, right? So the person you're talking to is the one who's going to make the decision, not some property management company.
Would that be something different? I remember back in the day, people used to call them halfway houses, or I don't know if we use that term anymore, but do the county works with organizations or housing kind of in that aspect?
Yes, so that's when I say like recovery houses or transitional houses, you know, that's what we call them now. And it's still the same thing though. It's still halfway houses. You know, as time goes on, like language kind of evolves, and so but that's exactly what I was talking about. So when you say halfway houses, and yes, we do work with them, and so we're able, you know, because those houses cost money. And people are coming out of incarceration, and 99.9% don't have any money when they're coming out. And so to help alleviate some of those initial anxieties, as long as we have funding, then we're able to help them initially, kind of again, like that boost at first, kind of give them that initial support.
And also it depends on how long they've been incarcerated as well. You know, a lot of things have changed technology-wise, education-wise. And so a lot of those folks, it's almost like stepping into a new world. And so, you know, they're like, I want halfway housing. You know, you're like, it's not called that anymore. This is a smartphone. You can do everything from here. And so, you know, it's just, you know, it's such a heavy, that would have to be really scary. Like
it is. Let me speak to that just a second too, right? Because well, I'm gonna mention that, but I'm gonna talk about somebody like who's been in prison for 25 years. And yes, they're being released. And so as a community, it's just behooves all of us to be receiving of an individual when they come back. All right, so let's say somebody's been in a year and then they get out, and so we provide them a smartphone with 90-day service. You know, you can give them the phone, they're good to go. Imagine you've been in 25 years and then somebody hands you this device. And also you've been inside, and now when you come out and you walking down the street, you just see a lot of people just looking down at this thing, and you know, what's going on out here? And so it depends on the individual. So that's why we do case management. Everything is case by case. And there may be someone who gets out that I'm gonna have to spend a lot more time with than maybe the next person. And so we have to assess that. But we're not above sitting down with somebody and like giving them a training, if you would, on how to use that smartphone. Because you talk about getting a job, you can't get a job these days without an email. You can't get a job without knowing how to go online and complete applications. And some people don't even know when you're doing a job application, you don't want to be trying to do that from the phone.
No.
You really need to do that from a computer. And it sounds real simple to those of us who kind of been out here and been going with it as it grew. But some people, you're right, it's just a complete shock to their system. And if you don't provide that support, if you don't take that time to work with those individuals that they need, they'll start to say, it was better for me in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's like whatever recidivism.
It's like,
Thinking comes back.
Yeah.
it's like that Shawshank Redemption thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was sad. We'll talk about that.
So there's another question here. How do pretrial release services function in our local criminal justice system? And what are some options available for two defendants awaiting trial?
Sure. So pretrial release programs are all across the nation. However, unique to North Carolina, they're not in every county. It's individualized in how the county is looking at the justice system. So for us, we have two components to our pretrial services that we provide. One is our screeners who work with the courts closely, providing criminal history, background checks, information where the judges can use this information to make a bond decision. We do use a risk assessment, and that's just something that's been predetermined using data and the ability to assess if someone is likely to commit a new charge, not show up to court, or to commit a violent offense. And again, that's just based on the person's background and, let's say, the number of times they failed to appear already. So if you failed to appear 5 times, you might be more likely not to show back up for your next court date. So that's when we talk about like this risk assessment and this like algorithm. It's really based on the unique individual, and then the outcomes based on the data through their own criminal history. And so again, the judges make judicial decisions every day. This is just a tool to help them assess the likelihood of somebody's going to show back up to court, or if they should be released, or if they're a public safety risk. Once the judge makes that decision and determines if they will do a secure bond, that means having money attached. Unsecured bond, meaning just a promise to appear for your next court date, stay in custody, or another option is work with a pretrial coordinator and be assigned to pretrial services. People tend to say pretrial is like probation. It's not. Right, it's voluntary. You have the option to choose. There are some consequences, right? If you don't choose to do pretrial, you might end up staying in custody. So those are things to weigh if you're making that decision. But the goal of pretrial is to really work with people, kind of like on that preventative side, providing the same support that Brent is mentioning when it comes to reentry, but helping people reach their goals. Like, okay, so you can't find a job right now. Let me connect you to services, right? So you can stay employed, so you can make sure you stay connected to your family. You have transportation barriers to get to court. Let's find ways that we can help solve for that, so you can make sure you make your court date, so you're not failing to appear. So case managers or case coordinators are really there to assist folks to stay out of custody. And so now if people don't follow, then people might say, oh, I have to return or go back to jail. It's because the person might have done something that violated the court order.
So, like, okay, so I hear that you all doing all this work with all these folks, and this is not a question that's on here, so I'm freestyling right now. So, do you all have like a mentoring program, like those who have successfully completed? Are they able to come back and mentor? Because that sounds like a great opportunity to not only have you all on a professional level, but have someone else on a real level that's been there.
Oh, yes, we use, when you think about the work and having people with lived experience walk along somebody that's currently going through this process, we utilize what they call peer supports. And so like the felony drug diversion program is one that's completely peer support ran, and so they're helping people engage in recovery while also trying to get their cases dismissed. And we have several peer supports on the community reentry side. Brent, you can add to that.
I think several of our staff have lived experience, right? So in full transparency, I have lived experience. I've done over 5 years in prison myself. And so now and listen, next month, April is reentry month. And next month will be 20 years since I've been released from prison. So I'm gonna clap for myself. But and so so I'm there like somebody with that lived experience. I don't, as far as the reentry council goes, we don't have like a specific program just for mentoring, but it is like anything else, right? It's its own community.
Yeah.
And so what happens is the success stories, people kind of hear about them and then they naturally matriculate too as well. So those are some of the folk they lean upon. And definitely the peer support model, community health workers, those with lived experience. It just really makes sense when somebody comes out and then you can connect them to somebody who, so for me, like 20 years ago, but it doesn't matter. It's like you still somebody who sat where I was sitting, so you understand that. But then we got people who may have only been out 2 or 3 years, right? But they're doing good. They become more stable. Their peer supports now, so then to have that person be able to walk with them. So now, all right, they're going to take you to get your ID, but they're doing more than just going to get your ID. They're kind of building you up. They're kind of letting you know there is a chance, there is opportunity. You don't have to go back. There is, tomorrow's going to come. You know, you spend that time doing those initial things, but also building that rapport, then those relationships are established. And we definitely seeing great results from that.
That was one of my questions I was going to ask, but go ahead, Tiffany. You have.
Just adding to what Brent's saying, I think, there's a side of like our services and providing like the lived experience, peer support, but then there are just organic ways that community is building once people are being released and they're gaining access to employment and the things needed to thrive in our community. They're reaching back, right, and trying to help others too, and I think that's powerful as well.
And I think it helps to reduce and even in many cases eliminate that stigma, because when I got out, like it definitely was different. Reentry wasn't even a thing, and it was like, all right, you out, so pretty much you're gonna be relegated to being a second-class citizen. So yeah, here are like 4 places you can work. And you can start at the bottom and you can stay at the bottom, you know what I mean? But now it's like as people are able to get opportunities, even inside, folk are educating themselves, taking classes, getting certifications, all these different things. So now they come out and then they're able to get more than just day labor or grunt work or dishwasher or whatnot. And then what it does, it helps to kind of eliminate that stigma. And so you think about organically in the community, it's not even like you wearing that sign on your forehead anymore, so people don't even.
So I got another question too. I know we done got off.
Yeah, we don't need.
So with this conversation, I was just thinking, as family, what's the steps as you prepare for your family to come back and join the family after being incarcerated or whatever? What steps should like a mom, a brother, a family member should do to just help educate themselves as well as their family member in this process?
So I think it helps if y'all stay connected during the incarceration. So if someone's been behind the wall, so to speak, for 7 years and there haven't been much communication and then they're getting out, then it's going to be a little different than if y'all have kind of been connected. So if anybody listening right now, you have family members that's currently incarcerated, try to stay connected with them. Through now, you don't even have to write letters anymore. Like they have tablets and you can send messages. So stay connected in that way. Those seem like very little things to us out here who busy with everyday responsibilities, but to take a little time out and stay connected, it's gonna make the difference when they are released. Because 95% of people in prison have a release date. Right? 95% of people are getting out. It might seem like it's gonna be a forever, but it's not. They're coming home. And then when they come home, we wanna receive them. And also I'll say, hold people accountable. Yeah, they went through a tough time, but you can't sit there and have a pity party and wallow in pity. So when they come out, we need to have some clear-cut goals. Let's have some short-term goals. Let's have some long-term goals, and then be supportive as a family member and try to help them reach that. And also, be compassionate, be understanding, but don't accept excuses. Excuse only good for the person that's using it.
I think I was gonna even add something to that. Being supportive, walking alongside that person returning, but not doing everything for them, not enabling the behavior or trying to make excuses. Overcompensating. The person has to have some ability and drive to want to stay motivated, and so I think I'm walking that fine line, and I don't have any recommendations. Brent might have some.
Well, I say and I'm just kind of speaking generally, but a lot of men, when they get out, their first thing is, I gotta go to work, a lot of women, it's got to get back to my kids.
Yeah.
And so it's about what that individual's priorities are, supporting them there. I will say too to anybody listening who might be incarcerated that's about to get out, a relationship don't need to be the first thing you jump into.
But they should
Get
know
yourself
about,
together.
where to come, right? The Justice Resource Center to connect with Brent right here.
Well, you're going to be in the courthouse anyway if you're on post-release because you got to go see your probation officer. So come on up to the 14th floor and just let them know you just recently released and you want to talk to Brent. We can take it from there.
Yeah. And that's a really important information for them to hear because I think, we are a schooling people. We want to school together with people. We want to couple up. But the thing is, companionship is not always. You can find companionship in having friends and doing things together to build yourself up. You don't need to be, I agree, you do not need to be in a relationship when you're trying to figure out who you are now in a different setting.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you're trying to figure out where you're going to work. You're trying to figure out how you're going to get to work. You're trying to figure out where you're going to live. And, what some people would do is enter into a relationship to get an address.
I was about to say, ain't that old lady gonna help you do all those things?
Well, that's a short. I think I heard a lady say the other day, a man is not a plan. and so I'm just saying, like, you need to work on those things. And see, this is the kind of talks we have with our participants that's not about anything systemically being provided, right? This ain't about a cell phone. This is about your everyday life and the decisions you make. Because the decision you make today is going to determine your tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times, people are just thinking about surviving. And so the thing is, if I have this lady friend that will do, or this guy friend that let me stay, that's part of my survival, even where if it's good or not, or if I'm healthy enough to be in a relationship, I just know I need to be there. And, one thing I've always heard was that people who have been incarcerated have the best talk game. They can sweet talk you to do, to go do anything. But my thing is, those are like skills that need to be like, hey, okay, we know you got the gift for gab, but let's talk about in an educational way. Let's figure out how to get you a job where you're on the phone, you're answering calls, you're getting stuff done. And so I think there's so much potential.
Transferable skills.
Transferable skills.
Yes.
If you can do that, then let's do this. So I think I have always wanted, like, what does that after care look like, or that before release care? And I'm that person that, okay, yeah, you did your time, now how do we help you not do it again? And I'm all about wraparound services, all about educating and help preparing people. And I'm not about holding people hostage to choices that they made, before today. And so how do we get you there? And so I know this is mostly pre-trial and re-entry, but when does that process start? Like, can they contact you a month before, 2 months before? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, they can actually. So the state of North Carolina will tell you they start working on reentry the day they get somebody.
Oh, wow.
That's what they'll tell you. They'll tell you they start working on reentry like the day that person's processed into prison. Because especially like if they don't have a life sentence, right? Then they know when they're going to get out. And I say that kind of facetiously, but the state has done some great things to really make reentry a priority. Like, they have certain facilities now dedicated to reentry. So now when individuals are there, that's all they're pretty much working on. What they're going to do when they get out, and then getting them prepared for that. So they can reach out to us at any time. And typically, so let's talk about housing really quick. So usually if somebody does not have a home plan, do not have an address, and then the case manager reaches out to us, then we can get them connected to the transitional house, do a phone interview where they can go from prison gate to house door.
Wow.
Right? So they don't have to worry about getting out, getting dropped off at a shelter, trying to figure it out. But then a lot of the people that come see us, we mentioned they had a different home plan, and they went there when they got out, and it just didn't work out. And that's fine too. Because we want individuals to be responsible for their plan, for their lives. And you can make your home plan, and if it don't work out, we'll still be there to assist. But yeah, we try to start working with people at least 90 days before release. And usually that's for the ones who are going to need the housing assistance. Because most of the other things we can't really do until they get out.
So like requesting records and things like, so they have to be out to like.
The best time to do that is when they're in. So if
Okay.
somebody reaches out, we let them know. For instance, you want a social security card?
Yeah,
Let the
yeah.
case manager from the prison order it, because they not going to get no flack from social security. Because social security thinks that the state of North Carolina knows who they have. They don't think they have the wrong person locked up, right? So all of that authenticating identity and all those things, you don't have to worry about it. So you can get the social security card, you can have that in your transition folder when you leave. You leave with a copy of your prison ID. Those two things are accepted at DMV.
Oh, wow.
Yes, you can get an ID. So, and these are the kind of things that we definitely share with people before they're released.
So what if they're getting an ID but they don't have an address? They are homeless. How do or unhoused? How do they get an ID?
So here in Buncombe County, they'll use 19 North End as the
Okay.
address, and then can have mail sent to AHOPE and until they get a more permanent address and can change that.
Okay.
And then again, like for those that we're assisting, we try not to have anybody in that situation.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna be at a transitional house, you'll have an address and you'll be able to put that on your ID.
Wow, that's amazing because I know that's one of the hardest things to get is an ID when you're outside and working on getting records because you're like, well, what can I use? Because you can't use your birth certificate to get your social security card anymore because they're like, well, we need to prove that you're still alive, you know, and it's like, I'm here, you know.
And this
So
because
it's
of fraud.
Yeah.
Let me say something I learned just last week. I never knew this. Did you know this? Social security card. There's a limit to how many you can
10.
get.
You can get 10 your whole life.
I did not know that. Tell one of my people they got 10. They found out on 11. We all found out.
Yeah, and because like I can order like you yourself, you personally can get 10, but if I ordered yours as a child, it does not like count against you. And so like you know, I have my children, my brothers. I have a copy of all of their social security cards and birth certificates because you know, mama has to have her stat. And if you lose it, you know, if you lose yours, I'll let you see mom, but I need it back.
Yeah.
So, you know, but yeah, I learned that because I used to be a foster care social worker and we would tell the youth all the time, I would take a group of youth with all their stuff and I said, okay, we're going to fill out, this is your first time getting your own social security card. This is one. You'll have 9 more shots after this. So be responsible.
Wow.
But there's a lot of things that people just do not know because they're
Yeah.
like, you know, and that social security card means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless you get a name change, if you get married, it starts over.
There we go. Back to the relationship.
You gotta get an old lady just to get a social security card. But
I thought you were gonna say just to get some social security, but you put card out, but okay.
Well, that too. Or just security. But yeah.
they're gonna bring us back.
That's a good one.
But you know, and so we talk about so the trauma of this because we understand that a lot of people do and make bad decisions when they're in trauma. We're talking about being arrested and all of those things. What type of trauma are we looking at that when we're working with this population?
I mean, I look at it as there's a saying in medicine with like bloodborne pathogens. I don't know if anyone had to take it. Like you treat all blood like it's infected.
Yes.
I think the same thing for trauma. Just treat everyone like we've had some exposure to trauma because we all have. We're humans, right? And the older we get, the more likely we've been exposed to trauma. I mean, we can talk about childhood trauma, domestic violence, intimate partner violence, sexual assaults, witnessing a death or having to care for someone who ends up dying. So yes, people come to us with trauma, with substance use, and we try to again meet people where they are. You know, Brent's talking specifically about people that are re-entering. We're trying to help reduce the person even entering into our into our penal system by providing trauma-informed services to help people get on a path to resiliency, a path of hope, a path of understanding. So our classes are trauma-informed. We have trauma-informed training that we provide to staff. We also have something called a treatment court, and those are our specialty courts. They have been it's kind of called a deferred prosecution, and they're usually for folks who have been charged or have charges related to substance use DWI, so that's our sobriety court, a veterans treatment court, serving veterans, and then adult drug treatment court. But those folks are facing or looking at prison time. And so what the judge, the DAs, and the public defenders, and even the defendant would agree to is you work on this program. It's a long program. That's why honestly most people don't sign up for it because they'd rather go do the time, right? But it's a long program, but the goal of that program is to provide people with skills needed to live a life in recovery and sustain recovery. And so I want to come here to promote the services. It's available to all. You can work with your public defender or your attorney to get in. I know there's some stigma and barriers related to our treatment courts, and we are working towards reducing those. We want to be trauma informed. We want to make sure there's representation with people that look like us. So we have a peer support on the team now. We have a clinical person on the team now. So really trying to provide wraparound services because again, most people will say, I'll just go do my time and come back. The thing about doing your time and coming back, you don't have those skills that you could have learned in the treatment course about how to stay in recovery. So you might have took like a pause in prison and you come back, you might have the same behaviors that you did before you got in. So our goal is really to promote these programs.
So we are going to have to wrap up, and I hate that because this is such a great conversation.
We got part two.
Yeah, so you all have to come back on. We'll get you on the schedule as soon as possible. And I always love for my guests to leave our listeners with something. And Brent, I'm going to start with you because Tiffany wanted you to go first the last time. And so I'll start with you. Give us something that you want our listeners to hold on to or to pass out.
Well, I'm going to just think that there's some people listening right now who might have a criminal background and has viewed that as a barrier, or you may be about to be released from incarceration, so you're going to be re-entering. And I'm going to just tell you that you might hear some no's, but when you hear no, it's not rejection, it's redirection. It's just getting you closer to when you're going to hear that yes that you need.
Last thing I will leave, and I will be remiss if I don't talk about our Buncombe County Family Justice Center, serving individuals who have been or survivors of intimate partner violence, sexual assault, elder abuse, domestic violence to come seek services. We want to provide wraparound services to those who are experiencing or being traumatized. So those services available at 35 Woodford, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And of course, you can always check us out at the JRC2, the 14th floor of the Buncombe County Courthouse.
All right. And Professor Jones?
And I'll just say ditto to what Tiffany just mentioned at the Justice Resource Center, as she mentioned. No appointments are necessary. If from the information we shared today, they are available Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 p.m. and they are located on the 14th floor of the Buncombe County Courthouse.
Can I give out the phone number?
Yes.
828-250-6401. That's 828-250-6401.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say to all our listeners, you know, a second chance, third chance, fourth chance, they're all possible. Do not allow anyone else to hold you hostage to decisions that you have made, because no one knows your entire story. However, we have services in our county where they're here to listen to your story and help yourself get on the path that you want to be on. We understand that wanting to change or wanting to do something different starts with the first idea that I can do something different, and we all can. You don't have to allow what other people say about you. Statistics and stereotypes and all those things are meant to be broken and to be changed. I always say change the number. You know, we look and you're like, I'm always in the top 10 on this bad area. Well, change the number. You could be in the top 10 of those who make the decision to do a program and do it successfully, and you will be on the opposite side of that statistic. It is about embracing what you want to do to change. Therapy is available. I say all the time that therapy is the gift given to folks who do not want to be held hostage by their trauma. And you don't have to be held hostage by anything that has happened to you. You have permission to let that go. And being part of Buncombe County, we are here to help you let that go. As we know that we are moving into spring creates new things. Let's create a new you with the help of you in Buncombe County. from my voice to yours. Let's go out, let's take care of each other, let's advocate. And you've been tapped in.
Thank you for listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower, here on WRES 100.7 FM in Nashville. Learn more about today's topics at buncombecounty.org. Otherwise, stay tuned for more great episodes coming up.